Most people think getting what you want is about being powerful, being confident, having the right words. But some people seem to get what they want without demanding anything. They understand something deeper. People don't always act based on logic. They act based on emotion, perception, fear, desire, and self-interest. Machiavelli understood this centuries ago. He studied power, but more importantly, he studied people. And once you understand how people think, you understand why some people are naturally more persuasive than others. Here are 7 psychological mechanisms behind it. 1. The certainty effect. Have you ever noticed how convincing someone sounds when they speak with absolute certainty? Even when they haven't actually proven anything? That's the certainty effect. People often mistake confidence for competence. Compare these 2 statements. I'm not sure, but maybe we should try this. And this is what we need to do. The second person immediately sounds more convincing. Why? Because certainty removes uncertainty, and people naturally look for someone who appears to know what they're doing. This doesn't mean you should pretend to know everything. Real confidence is being comfortable enough with uncertainty that you don't constantly seek approval. You don't need to over-explain every decision. You don't need to apologize for every opinion. Sometimes, speaking calmly and standing behind your words is enough, because the person who appears the most certain often becomes the person others follow. 2. The framing trap. One of the easiest ways to influence someone isn't to change their answer, it's to change the question. Do you want to spend $500? Sounds very different from, would you invest $500 to save yourself months of work? Same amount, different frame. People don't respond only to what happens, they respond to how they understand what happens. A restriction can become protection. A sacrifice can become an investment. A demand can become a choice. Notice what is happening. The decision hasn't changed. The way the decision feels has changed. And when someone controls the frame, they can influence the decision before the other person even realizes it. 3. The emotional leverage. Logic explains decisions. Emotion often causes them. Think about why people buy things they don't actually need. It's rarely because they calculated the purchase perfectly. They imagine how owning it will make them feel. Excited, successful, important, secure. The same thing happens between people. Praise can make someone more receptive. Fear can create urgency. Guilt can create compliance. Attention can create attachment. This is why manipulation doesn't always look cruel. Sometimes, it looks like kindness. Someone might constantly make you feel guilty whenever you say no. Eventually, you stop saying no, not because they forced you, because you want to avoid the emotion they create. That's emotional leverage. So when someone strongly influences you, ask yourself, what are they making me feel? Because sometimes the emotion is the real argument. 4. The scarcity effect. People value things more when they believe they might lose them. That's scarcity. Only 3 left. Last chance. Offer ends tonight. You've seen it everywhere. And it works because losing something often feels more painful than gaining something feels exciting. Imagine someone offers you a watch. You might think about buying it. Now imagine they say, this is the last one. Suddenly, you feel pressure. The watch didn't become better. Your perception changed. The same thing can happen with attention. When someone's attention is always available, we can take it for granted. When that attention becomes limited, we notice its value. But there's a difference between genuine scarcity and fake scarcity. Real scarcity creates urgency. Fake scarcity eventually destroys trust. So the lesson isn't to become unavailable. It's to understand that availability affects perceived value. 5. The reciprocity trap. Someone helps you. Later, they ask for a favor. You feel slightly more willing to help. That's reciprocity. Humans naturally want to return what they receive. It's why favors build relationships. But it can also become a psychological trap. Someone does something for you, then later says, I did this for you. Now you owe me. Notice what changed. The favor is no longer generosity, it's leverage. And some people intentionally create these little debts. They give, they help, they compliment, they make you feel special, then they ask for something, and suddenly saying no feels wrong. That's why it's important to separate gratitude from obligation. You can appreciate someone's kindness without giving them control over your decisions. A favor should create gratitude, not ownership. 6. The strategic silence. Most people hate silence, so they rush to fill it. They explain, they defend themselves, they keep talking, and sometimes they reveal more than they intended. Imagine you're negotiating. You make your offer, then you stop. No explanation, no nervous laughter, just silence. Eventually, the other person may start talking. They might counter your offer, reveal their concerns, or even give you more information than they originally planned. Why? Because people naturally want to remove uncertainty. Silence creates uncertainty, but strategic silence isn't about manipulating people. It's about becoming comfortable with not reacting immediately. You don't have to answer every accusation. You don't have to explain every decision. You don't have to fill every uncomfortable moment. Sometimes, letting silence exist is enough, because people often reveal more when you give them space to speak. 7. The art of making people choose you. This is the most important one. People who consistently get what they want don't always force others. They create situations where people want to cooperate. That's the difference between control and influence. Control says, do what I want. Influence says, let's create something you want too. If you want trust, be trustworthy. If you want opportunities, become valuable. If you want respect, stop desperately chasing approval. Because people don't only respond to what you ask for, they respond to what you represent. Skill, reliability, confidence, trust, value. And when you consistently provide those things, people have a reason to choose you. That's the real secret. Getting what you want isn't always about becoming better at taking. Sometimes, it's about becoming someone people naturally want to give things to. And this is why these mechanisms matter. They are not tricks. You encounter them every day, in friendships, at work, online, during arguments, even in conversations. The more aware you become of these patterns, the easier it becomes to separate influence from manipulation. You stop reacting automatically. You start noticing the structure behind the interaction, and that awareness gives you something more valuable than control: choice. Psychology isn't automatically manipulation. Knowing how people think doesn't make you manipulative. What matters is how you use that knowledge. You can understand fear without exploiting it. You can understand emotion without controlling it. You can become persuasive without becoming deceptive. Machiavelli understood something that still matters today. People don't always behave according to what they say they value. They respond to incentives, emotion, perception, desire, status, self-interest. The words may change, the century may change, but the mechanism rarely does. So the next time someone tries to persuade you, don't just ask, what are they saying? Ask, what are they making me feel? What frame are they giving me? And most importantly, who benefits if I say yes? Because once you understand the psychology behind people's behavior, you become much harder to influence without realizing it. And sometimes, the person who understands the game doesn't need to control the board. They simply understand how it's played.